Hello, good morning to everyone. Once again from the Secretariat. I would focus during my presentation on the POPRC Review Committee meeting that is going to be held from 14th to 18th October at the headquarters of FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization in Rome. The proposed agenda for the POPRC Review Committee includes number of agenda items. The first few agenda items from agenda item 1 to 4 includes the procedural and organizational matters, and from agenda item 5 to 8 technical and scientific work of the POPRC that is dealt with, that is including the draft risk management evaluations of risk profiles and etc. etc. And the last few agenda items from 9 to 13 again on operation and other related matters. And during my presentation, I would focus on the agenda items related to technical and scientific matters from 5 through 8. As you would know, the convention provides in Article 8 the process for listing new chemicals as POPs, and that involves several steps, starting with submission of proposals by parties, and then POPRC, the committee screening the criteria for Annex D, and then of course once it is satisfied, then it will go on to development of risk profile and in Annex E, and then the risk management evaluation stage where the committee develop the Annex F information, which will eventually be made available for the concerned parties to make the final decision whether the chemical could be included or not under one of the annexes A, B, or C of the convention. So in the upcoming POPRC, there are two chemicals that are at the stage of risk management evaluation of this process, and that is chlorinated naphthalene and hexachlorobutadiene. At the last POPRC, the committee considered the risk profile of these two chemicals and adopted that and decided to establish ad hoc working groups to develop draft risk management evaluations for chlorinated naphthalene and hexachlorobutadiene. And as you can see from this chart, the ad hoc working group considered information provided by parties and observers and drafted a risk management evaluation, which was made available for parties and observers to make comments, which will then considered again by the ad hoc working group and provided the draft that will be considered during the upcoming meeting, that it will where it could be either adopted or considered for otherwise. This is the normal process that was taken for these two chemicals. If you just go through these chemicals individually, very briefly, the chlorinated naphthalene, which is, as you may know, produced and used in the applications including wood preservatives, additives to paints and engine oils, and etc. Currently not known to be internationally produced, and all applications seem to have been ceased. Though specific information is lacking for the current situation. Regarding unintentional generation, this chemical is considered potential to be generated during high temperature industrial processes in the presence of chlorine and in waste incineration. The related documents you could find in POPRC 9/4 where you have the draft risk management evaluation with a note by the Secretariat including possible action by the committee. And the compilation of comments on the draft and responses to the comments by the International Working Group is provided in POPRC9 in 5. For hexachlorobutadiene, the risk management evaluation draft was again developed during the process, during the interstitial period, and as you may know, hexachlorobutadiene is produced and used for several industrial processes and as an insecticide. Currently, not known to be internationally produced, and production ceased in Europe in 1970, and all applications seems to have been ceased. Though specific information is lacking for the current situation and for the last 30 years. The chemical is unintentionally generated in the production of chlorinated hydrocarbons and the production of manufacture of magnesium and incineration and during incineration processes. And the related draft risk management evaluation for hexachlorobutadiene is set out in POPRC9/5 with a note by the Secretariat including possible actions. And again, in this compilation of comments on the draft and responses by the committee, International Working Group is set out in 6. Moving on to agenda item 6, where the committee would consider the draft risk management risk profile of pentachlorophenol, its salts and esters. The chemical was considered during POPRC8, and the committee decided while pentachlorophenol molecule itself does not meet all the screening criteria, pentachlorophenol and its salts and esters meet the screening criteria, taking into account its transformation product pentachloroanisole. So they decided to establish an ad hoc working group as in the past, in the previous case, and information was collected and draft risk profile was developed, made available for comments from parties and observers, and based on the comments, the draft was revised and going to be considered at the next meeting. Pentachlorophenol briefly. As you could see, it could be in the environment transformed into pentachloranisole, and pentachloranisole also can go back to pentachlorophenol depending on conditions prevailing. And historically, pentachlorophenol was produced and used as a wood preservative with variety of other uses as biocides, pesticide, disinfectant, etc. Currently, the only reported world use of PCP is for wood preservation. Transformation products and metabolites of other chlorinated organochlorines such as hexachlorobutadiene, lindane, and quintosin can also generate pentachlorophenol. Pentachloranisole, on the other hand, is not used as a commercial chemical or pesticide and is not intentionally released directly into the environment. The documents risk management, risk profile of PCP is set out in POPRC9/6, and additional information that was generated during the interstitial period of this development of this draft risk profile is presented in 7, and the compilation of comments on the draft and responses by the intersessional working group is set out in 9. Agenda item 7, we have 2 new chemicals proposed by parties for consideration. One is decabromodiphenyl ether, or we call it deca-BDE, and that was proposed by Norway, and it is a synthetic mixture of polybrominated diphenyl ethers with the main component being the fully brominated congener decabD, widely used as an additive flame retardant in textile and plastics. The documents, you can find the document in POPRC9/2, the proposal by Norway, and with the Secretariat norm. And in 8 of POPRC provides Secretariat verification whether the proposal contains Annex B information. Similarly, for the other chemical that was proposed by EU, that is dicophol, which comprises 2 isomers, para-para prime and ortho-para prime dicophol, that is widely used as a miticidal pesticide, acaricide, and in many countries. The proposal is set out in POPRC9/3, and again the Secretariat verification can be found in 8, and additional information also can be found in POPRC8/8, that was, and POPRC8/13. These documents are actually coming from the previous POPRC. As you can see, it is POPRC8. These documents were developed under the screening assessment by the POPs review committee related to the alternatives to endosulfan. Among the technical work under agenda item 8, there are several. The first one is POPRC, a process for the evaluation of PFOS with salts and PFOS-F pursuant to paragraph 5 and 6 of Part 3 of Annex B of the Convention, where it requires the Conference of the Parties to undertake an assessment of PFOS, and the process was adopted. A process was adopted during the last COP, and requested the POPRC to undertake an assessment of alternatives to PFOS to facilitate the evaluation of continuing need by the Conference of the Parties. The draft terms of reference for the assessment of alternatives by the POPs Review Committee is set out in POPRC9/7, and the draft format for the submission of information for the assessment of alternatives is set out in POPRC9/10. Apart from that, related to PFOS itself, guidance on alternatives to PFOS and their related chemicals, this was considered actually in the last POPRC, the already existing guidance, and considered the information provided by parties, and decided to establish an ad hoc working group to incorporate the additional information provided and the revision. And accordingly, the draft revision has revised guidance has been now developed, and that is contained in INF 11, and INF 12 again comprise compilation of comments on the draft guidance for consideration. Agenda item 8 continues, and the other title that is going to be considered during the next meeting is the approach to the evaluation of chemicals in accordance with Annex E to the Stockholm Convention. During POPRC 8, a technical paper was presented, and the comments and decided to establish an ad hoc working group again to take consider the comments and information, additional information provided by parties and observers, and further develop this technical paper, a discussion paper. And this discussion paper is now set out in 13, which has more or less 2 parts: the practices followed in evaluation of chemicals under Annex E, and issues in which there are no established practices at the moment. And in 14 compiles again as usual compilation of comments regarding the discussion paper. In addition, under this same agenda item, there will be a short presentation by the chair of the Intersessional Working Group on short chain chlorinated paraffins, the additional information submitted during the intersessional period. Continuing with the agenda item 8, the last one, guidance on how to assess the possible impact of climate change on the work of the committee. Again, a technical paper was considered during the last POPRC and established an ad hoc working group, which further developed based on the comments and additional information. In POPRC9/10, Annex 1 includes the draft approach for consideration of climate change interactions with chemicals proposed for listing. And Annex 2 includes the draft recommendations developed on the basis of the guidance, and the revised draft guidance itself is in 14, and compilation of comments in 16. So these are the main substantive technical work that will be considered. In addition, there will be a couple of side events, one on HBCD and the other one on WTO report on endocrine disruptors, and the last one is POPs in articles. That concludes my presentation, and thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Ganini. And I will now pass the floor to Paul Wiley, who will do the second presentation. Okay, Paul, the floor is yours.
Hello? Yes. Sorry, apparently I was not coming through. Good morning again. My name is Paul Wiley, and I'll be presenting an overview of the 9th meeting of the Chemical Review Committee, which will be held at the Food and Agriculture Organization headquarters in Rome between the 22nd and 25th of October. Just a few things to note: that the meeting is being held over 4 days as opposed to the normal 5, as it is felt that the agenda items would not warrant going 5 days. You should also note that all the documents for the meeting are on the website of the convention at www.pic.int. And if you go to the menu item convention, and under that is the Chemical Review Committee, and you go to meetings, CRC9, and then you scroll down to meeting documents. In essence, I'll be covering mainly the agenda, and if you have questions or require clarification on the presentation, please feel free to ask questions or seek clarification at the end of the webinar. Okay, yes, just to give you a quick review on the Chemical Review Committee. It is established by the Conference of the Parties as a subsidiary body. As you know, the Conference of the Parties is mainly a political body, and therefore, to cover the scientific matters, the Chemical Review Committee was established to look at the chemicals that are proposed for listing in the convention and to analyze and make recommendations to the Conference of the Parties. There are 31 independent experts from across all 5 UN regions. The committee analyzes information received from notifications of final regulatory actions taken by parties on each particular chemical. The committee analyzes information received also on the effects of a severely hazardous pesticide formulation used under local conditions in the jurisdiction of the party, and assesses how this may affect, in fact, other parties of a similar climatic and environmental condition. And it recommends to the Conference of the Parties on whether to list a chemical in the convention. Okay, quickly to look at the items before the committee. The committee will be presented with a review of the outcomes of the 6th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Rotterdam Convention, and of course the 2nd simultaneous extraordinary meetings of the conferences of the parties to the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions. And these outcomes, of course, are those that are relevant to the work of the committee, and this will be presented by the Secretariat. Next, the committee will consider the rotation of the membership. The current chair of the committee will be, her term will finish in April of this year, and April of next year. And so a new chair will have to be nominated. The procedure is normally the Bureau proposes a chair, and this chair is endorsed by the committee, and the chair takes up his or her position, and then the Conference of the Parties will ratify the nomination of the chair as done by the committee. Secondly, there are 17 new members that are due to come on stream in the rotation process, and they will start on the 1st of May 2014, and their term will run to the 30th of April 2018. Now, onto the technical work before the committee, and the first is the consideration of the draft decision guidance document for trichlorophon. At the last meeting of the committee, they decided to recommend to the Conference of the Parties that trichlorophon be listed, and as such, the committee is preparing a draft decision guidance document which will be considered by CRC9. Next, we have a number of documents that, a number of chemicals, sorry, that the committee will be reviewing, and these are from notifications of final regulatory actions from 2 parties from 2 different regions. And the first is cyhexatin, which is a pesticide, and we also have lead arsenate, lead carbonate, and metaphos. Lead carbonate is an industrial chemical, and the others are pesticides. Cyhexatine was notifications were received from Brazil and Canada, and the Bureau did a preliminary review on these chemicals, and for cyhexatine found that only one notification meets the Annex II criteria. For lead arsenate, coming from Japan and Peru, notifications from Japan and Peru, no notification met Annex II criteria. For lead carbonate, notifications were received from Latvia and Jordan. Also, no notification met Annex II criteria. And for methimidopus, from notifications from Brazil and the EU, both notifications met the criteria of Annex II. So the committee will now look at this preliminary review through task groups and make a decision as to whether they will continue with the conclusions of the preliminary review, and will recommend to the Conference of the Parties accordingly how to deal with these chemicals. At the last meeting, at the 7th meeting of the Conference of the Parties, 2 notifications were received on pentachlorobenzene. These were from Japan and Canada. Only 1 notification met the criteria of Annex II, and that was from Canada. Subsequent to this, Japan has presented additional information on its notification on pentachlorobenzene, and the committee will take a look at this additional information. In the preliminary review by the Bureau, it did not find that with the additional information that the notification from Japan met the Annex II criteria for listing. Finally, we have a proposal from the African country of Chad for the inclusion of Fenthion 640 ULV formulation as a severely hazardous pesticide formulation to be listed in Annex III. The preliminary review of the proposal has found that yes, the chemical meets the criteria from Part 3 of Annex 4 of the Convention, and therefore should be listed in Annex 3. So this is just a preliminary review, and the committee will now decide whether this preliminary review should be accepted and taken forward to the, as a recommendation to the Conference of the Parties to list this SHPF, severely hazardous pesticide formulation. Quickly to the next item on the agenda is a report on activities for effective participation in the work of the committee. And over the last 5 years or so, the Secretariat has been doing much work in stimulating participation in the work of the committee, both from the experts themselves and also from those representatives of parties, the designated national authorities, OCPs, to get much more input into the work of the committee. Workshops have been undertaken, webinars have been held, and links have been made to many of these representatives to try to stimulate them to be involved in the work of the committee. And there will be a presentation by the Secretariat on these activities. There has been effort to improve the coordination and collaboration with other scientific subsidiary bodies, and in particular the work of the POPs Review Committee. The chairs of the POPRC and CRC have put forward a proposal for further collaboration and sharing of information, and this in fact was discussed at the joint meeting and the meetings of the two conventions, and this coordination and collaboration will again be discussed at CRC9. Finally, the dates and venue of the 10th meeting of the committee will be proposed for endorsement at the CRC9. And of course, we cannot leave out the possibility of other matters. We have to adopt the portion of the report that's available at the end of the meeting. And we have, of course, the closure of the meeting. So that concludes the presentation on the Technical Review Committee, and I stand ready to answer as best as I can any questions or queries that you may have on the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Paul. I will now pass the floor to Kay Ono, who will make the first presentation. Kay, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anya. Good morning, everyone. I would like to present the briefing on joint meeting of the Technical Review Committee and POPRC Review Committee. The joint meeting was approved at last COP6 meeting of the Stockholm and Rotterdam Convention. The COP requested to have this joint meeting for the main purpose of scientific information exchange, and also to enhance the coordination and collaboration of the two committees. The joint meeting will be held on Sunday, 20th of October. The meeting will start at 9:30 until 12:30 for the morning session, and we will have lunch break from 12:30 to 2 p.m. an afternoon session from 2 p.m. to 5 o'clock. We are planning to have a side event during the lunch break on endosulfan as an example to give guidance for parties to consider POPRC and CRC outcomes. This was a collaborative work of the two committees, and we will be pleased to share with you the result. The documents for the joint meeting is not yet available on the website, but will be posted on the same pages as POPRC9 and CRC9. A direct link for both meetings are indicated here in this slide. We're looking at the end of this week to be able to post all the meetings related to the joint session. The agenda is already available on the website, but there will be a slight revision to the agenda, which is already available and sent to all participants. Following the opening and the adoption of the agenda, as an item 3 of the provisional agenda, the committee will discuss mandates and review processes under the two committees. The chair of the two committees will present the two processes, and committee is expected to discuss whether there are areas where they can further cooperate in terms of the processes and so on. And then the next item is on the requests in the omnibus decision adopted at XCOPS2. The first one is on alignment of the working arrangements of CRC with those of the POPRC Review Committee. The request originated from the CRP submitted by Norway, indicating the need for further alignment of the working arrangements so that the two committees will be working more effectively. This item is aimed at sharing the views of the two committees and take note of any proposals that the committee may have on alignment of the working arrangements. The next item is scientific information exchange relating to review of chemicals by CRC and POPRC. Under this item, there are 3 topics proposed by the 2 chairs of the committees. Those are 1, identification and listing of chemicals, including consideration of impurities. Number 2 is processes and contents of technical documents developed by the committees, including bridging information from international assessments and scientific literature. And the third one is experiences in decision-making by the committees. Each topic will be presented by one of the committee members using a very short slide and share the experiences and information already gathered by each committee. The aim of this item is purely scientific information exchange and also to seek for any areas they may have in collaboration. This is also related to the third items that comes later, number D, on development of guidance to assist parties to the Rotterdam Convention. Now, after item B is item C on identification of further steps to enhance the cooperation and coordination between the CRC and POPRC. If you recall, at EXCOPS 2, the 2 chairs presented the document on collaboration and coordination of the 2 committees as an information document. The document provides the comparison of the 2 committees and lists down possible areas of collaboration. The note by the Secretariat refers to this document, and the committees are invited to further discuss any further steps to enhance the cooperation and coordination. Now, the D is development of guidance to assist parties to the Rotterdam Convention and the Chemical Review Committee in their work when a chemical under consideration is the POP listed under the Stockholm Convention. This item is one of the most important items because the committee is expected to initiate the work so that the 2 committees can jointly report back at the 7th meeting of the convention. Prior to this meeting, at the 3rd meeting of the Rotterdam Convention, the COP of the Rotterdam Convention has considered a document on risk evaluation of chemicals that have already been reviewed by other multilateral environmental agreements, such as the Stockholm Convention and the Montreal Protocol. This document is contained in document UNEP FAO RC COP 310. The note by the Secretariat refers to this document to suggest that this could be a starting point for the discussion by the 2 committees. The expected outcome is to have a joint intersessional working group consist of the observers and members of the 2 committees and agree on a work plan that will develop the draft guidance to be presented or to be reported back at the 7th meeting of the Conference of the Parties. After that, we will have other matters and closure of the meeting. The report of the meeting will be available as on the website after the meeting. And the intersessional working groups, any updates or work plan will also be informed on the website of the two committees. Thank you very much.